I'm Reverend Michelle Scott-Huffman. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm the minister here at First Unitarian Universalist Church. I begin with a poem, Love After Love by Derek Walcott. The time will come when, with elation, you will greet yourself arriving at your own door, in your own mirror, and each will smile at the other's welcome and say, sit here, eat. You will love again the stranger who was yourself. Give wine, give bread, give back your heart to itself, to the stranger who has loved you all your life, whom you ignored for another, who knows you by heart. Take down the love letters from the bookshelf, the photographs, the desperate notes. Peel your own image from the mirror. Sit. Feast on your life. As we dive into words and thoughts about compassion this month, these are particular words that I needed to hear. Jack Kornfield has said that if your compassion does not include yourself, it is incomplete. And this world that we're living in right now is no place for incomplete compassion. We need every ounce of full-on, undefiled, thorough, absolute, out-and-out compassion that we can find to face the challenges that we face in creating a world where everyone is valued and has the dignity, respect, and resources necessary to live into the best possible version of themselves. These are hard times. If I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times in these last 5 months, and I'm going to keep saying it because it's amazing to me how easy it is to forget that we are in the midst of collective trauma that impacts our minds, our bodies, and our spirits. Sometimes when I just can't seem to get it together and to make the words come out right, or to stay caught up with a particular task, or to make myself plan a semester's worth of events that may or may not happen and almost assuredly won't happen the way I plan them. Sometimes it's enough to remind myself that if there's ever been a thing that I was experiencing that others are experiencing too, this is it. But if I am to be honest, most of the time it's not enough. And so when I read the words of the poem, Love After Love, the time will come when with elation you will greet yourself arriving at your own door, in your own mirror, and each will smile at the other's welcome. I hope. It sounds lovely. I don't remember when I last saw myself in a mirror. I mean, really saw myself in the way that I seek to see others with love, acceptance, welcome, and compassion. Actually, as I was writing this message, I did remember. It was a Sunday in January. I was preaching that whole month at a church in Camdenton. And as I was getting ready for the service in an office that was not my own, as I stood in front of a strange mirror to put on my clergy robe and stole, it was as if I was seeing myself for the first time in a long time. For a moment, I was overwhelmed by the depth of connection that I had to that person who had accepted this calling, this life of service to humanity that seeks connection with the sacred. I cried, and I just stayed there, taking it all in, loving the call and the caller and the one who said yes, the stranger who was myself, as Walcott says. That was in January. This is August. Dr. Kristen Neff is an associate professor in human development and culture at UT Austin and the author of Self-Compassion, the Proven Power of Being Kind to Yourself, and the co-author of the Mindful Self-Compassion Workbook. She notes that there's a significant difference between being nice to ourselves and being kind to ourselves. Actually, Robin DiAngelo also talks about this in her work on white fragility. In an article entitled "White People Assume Niceness is the Answer to Racial Inequality, It's Not," she writes, "Niceness is conveyed through tone of voice, eye contact, accompanied by smiling and conjuring of affinities. Kindness is compassionate and often implicates actions to support or intervene. Niceness is fleeting, hollow, and performative." Maybe niceness is offering a comforting wave and a smile to someone stranded on the side of the road with a broken down vehicle, while kindness is being late for wherever we are going to stop and make sure that the person has what they need to resolve their problem. Niceness is performative, but kindness is transformative. Friends, some of us are rolling around in broken cars, metaphorically speaking, and what we need is not a honk or a wave or a piece of duct tape. What we need is to be given time, space, understanding, and resources to find the source of the problem and to address it properly. And we need this from the people around us, sure, but some of us need this especially from ourselves. Pandemic life has given many of us the opportunity, to put it nicely, to exist for longer periods in places and situations that we hadn't before. This has been both incredibly frustrating and also educational. I suspect that most of us have new skills and have developed abilities that we simply didn't have before. The fact that most of us are here on Zoom this morning is proof of that. For some of us, particularly those of us who are responsible for creating, maintaining, and nurturing these virtual spaces, the work that we did before March now takes about 3 times as long, if not more. Let me stop here for a big hat tip to the staff and volunteers that make this and many other gatherings happen week in and week out. It's been hard work, and we are deeply grateful for your efforts. As I was saying, all of us have new skills. Most of us have new frustrations, and many of us have developed new efficiencies as well. I'm learning how to block my time to accomplish similar tasks in one chunk of time rather than bouncing around between calls, emails, documents, graphic design, and all the other various tasks of my day. I've also, though, developed a new level of efficiency in self-loathing. On a daily basis, when something doesn't go as planned, and it does happen every day, I am now spectacularly proficient at naming my failures and noting why I was the sole cause of this current mishap. This proficiency is important, you see, because in these busy and stressful times, as somebody brilliantly said, ain't nobody got time for that. But you can bet it's going to happen anyway. Adam Phillips writes in his essay, Against Self-Criticism, that we are continuously, if unconsciously, mutilating and deforming our own character. Indeed, so unrelenting is this internal violence that we have no idea what we are like without it. We know virtually nothing about ourselves because we judge ourselves before we have a chance to see ourselves. So I'm glad for this time that's set aside to think about and to practice compassion, both for others and for ourselves. It seems we could all use a reminder now and then of the value of compassion in our lives. Neff notes that self-compassion isn't an intellectual exercise where we fight off the self-critical thoughts in our heads with logical arguments for self-acceptance. Rather, it is a warm, loving, connected attitude and feeling, one that exists in our bodies as well as our minds. Scientific research in places like the Greater Good Science Center in Berkeley has highlighted many benefits of self-compassion in recent years. Some of the most notable are that people with higher levels of self-compassion tended to brood less about their misfortune and reported fewer symptoms of anxiety and depression. That self-compassion is one of the most powerful sources of coping and resilience available to us. That self-compassion is a far more effective force for personal motivation than self-punishment. Even though we tend to see self-compassion as weakness and an excuse to evade personal accountability, it actually strengthens accountability. And if those reasons aren't enough, for those of us who care deeply about being compassionate to others, being good to yourself actually helps you be good to others, while being bad to yourself only gets in the way. Neff writes, the research literature is unclear about whether self-compassion is actually necessary to be compassionate to others, given that many people do a pretty good job of caring for others while shortchanging themselves. However, a growing body of research indicates that self-compassion helps people sustain the act of caring for others. And in these times, where we need to practice caring for others, we need all that we can to help us sustain those practices. So hopefully you're convinced by one reason or another that self-compassion is a worthy endeavor. What are the practices that help us get there? When Emily chose the music for today, she offered a note to tell us that we were using a song again today that we've already heard during this month where we focus on compassion. And she invites us to hear it differently today, to hear it with ourselves as the object of compassion. Whatever practices you use in your life to nurture your compassion for others, they can also be pointed inward. Perhaps you're familiar with the metta or loving kindness meditation from Buddhist practice. This meditation is designed to help us expand compassion to ever-widening circles of people and beings, starting with ourselves, moving to beings that we love and care about, outward to those we may not yet know, and even to those we dislike or have negative feelings toward. Foundational to this practice is that compassion for ourselves is innate to us, and that we may just need to center ourselves on that truth and radiate compassion from there. One set of instructions for the metta meditation invites us to find our center and then to smile to ourselves and repeat the phrases, may I be happy, may I be well, may I be safe, may I be peaceful and at ease. Then we are to bask in feelings of warmth and self-compassion for a few moments. Once we have known these good intentions for ourselves, we can begin to widen the circle of compassion. May you be happy. May they be safe, and so on. But what if I don't get to the part where I'm basking in feelings of warmth and self-compassion? This is where the religious and spiritual traditions that are a part of me begin to blend. My mind goes to a labyrinth, an ancient practice, but one that I came to know through Christianity. In walking a labyrinth, you take a methodical, spiraling path from the outside to the inner core and back out again. In my practice of walking a labyrinth, I find myself both shedding things and picking things up on the way in. After spending time in prayer or meditation at the center, I may not need those things anymore, or I may need to pick them back up. I may find what I need to carry out with me. When I applied this thought process to the loving kindness meditation, I imagine that sometimes I may have to choose a different starting point in order to achieve basking in warmth status at the center. What if I start at the place where I do feel compassion? Some days that may be in myself, and others it may be compassion for the people that I love. And what if I take that compassion that is almost unfailing for some of the people that I love, and I radiate it inward to my center first, and then I send it back out? Could it be that having done that, there is more for me to send out, and that it will go further into the ever-widening circles, even to those for whom I feel disdain? What if every good and kind thought, gesture, or deed I offer to others in the name of compassion, I also offer to myself? The time will come when with elation you will greet yourself arriving at your own door, in your own mirror, and each will smile at the other's welcome and say, sit here, eat. You will love again the stranger who was yourself. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen.